Hi, I'm Alan Maceo. I'm back here with Blayney White from Cross Country Mortgage. We're going to talk about down payment assistance loans for first-time buyers. This is the Live Better, Explore More podcast.
Welcome to the Live Explore podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit like and subscribe.
Welcome, Blayney.
Thank you, Alan. It's great to be back again.
Okay, let's get into it. The Chenoa Fund.
Well, first, can we just give a quick little, what is a down payment assistance loan in general?
You want people to know something?
Yeah. You
All
know
right,
what?
go ahead.
Call me crazy, but I think they need to know. I think there's a lot of first-time home buyers out there that are struggling to get their down payment together. So the percentage of the purchase, which they need to bring for cash, is what a lot of first-time home buyers struggle with, and it prevents them from actually buying a home. Down payment assistance programs are sponsored by CalHFA, and CalHFA is a California fund to assist specific area median income earners with their down payment.
Okay, so what would you say the percentage is of? Because I think in my world, right, I think we know there are people out there renting who could make the mortgage payment on that house, but they don't have the 3.5, 5, whatever, right? They don't have the down payment.
Right.
Okay. So this, in theory, sounds like these DPAs, down payment, right? Assistance, right? They sound good, but
In application, it's difficult.
They're pricey. They could be pricey.
They're pricey and they can be difficult to implement. But for the right person and the right circumstance, the money's there. You just have to inquire to see if you're going to fit in the tiny little box.
Okay. So that's a great intro. Let's go into the fund, right? The Chenoa Fund. So we're just going to go down the list. I'll have some questions on them. All right. But, fill us in.
Okay.
And then if you can, all right, and this may be putting you on the spot, like maybe for this one, this would be good for this type of person.
Okay.
Our lender, our borrower, right?
Borrower, yeah. Okay, I'll do my best. Okay, first of all, down payment assistance comes in 3 types in the state of California. The first one is the Chenoa Fund, and that one's pretty lenient as far as credit score because it goes down to a minimum of 600, so that can be helpful for some borrowers. The down payment assistance program for Chenoa is 2 ways. It's either forgivable or non-forgivable. And we can go through that, and I'll break down what that means. Then there's a new program that they announced this year called California Dream for All, your favorite, Alan.
Yeah.
I know.
Pull the pin on the grenade and let that thing explode.
We're going to take a deeper dive into that for sure.
Okay.
And then the last one is the My Home CalHFA.
Okay.
And that one is the traditional one that's available from CalHFA. And we'll talk about all of them individually and why a borrower might consider one over the other.
Okay. Let's get into it.
All right. So the Chenoa Fund, it's 3.5% and up to 5%. So the reason I'm saying between 3.5% and 5% is because it depends on the purchase price and the income limits and how many people reside in the home. Okay, so there's variables for all of these to qualify. It's not like qualifying for a regular loan where you say, okay, your FICO's this, your income's this, your assets are this, and the property type is this. Typically, those loans don't limit how much you can make. They don't look at how many people are dependent upon what you make per month. But these programs do. Okay? So let's just use an example in the forgivable loan on down payment assistance in Chenoa Fund. This is in the forgivable sense, say it's 3.5% on your purchase price. If you make 36 months of consecutive on-time payments on the first mortgage, which is a CalHFA Federal Housing Administration loan, or FHA, if you make the first mortgage payments on time for 36 months, it is a forgivable loan. If you don't make the payments on time, then those guidelines reset when you're late on your mortgage on your first.
So I'll make this simple. Let's say month 24, right? I'm current, I'm on time, and then month 24, I have a hiccup, and now I have a late. But then I make the payment, and then the next month 25, I'm back on target. So from that point, it does another 36-month reset. So from month 24, 36 months out. Okay.
Correct. Because the guideline states that the homeowner must make 36 months consecutive on-time payments on the first mortgage. Okay. The other way is what they call repayable. So in that instance, if we set them up to do a repayable loan, it's essentially 10% interest. Let me see what they said here. It's a 10-year term, and it's 2% interest more than the first mortgage. So if your CalHFA FHA mortgage is an interest rate of 6.5%, then the forgivable loan would be at 8.5% interest, and it does accrue interest, and it's for 10 years.
Okay.
Okay. Why would you do one over the other? Well, because you can still pay off the second, and even if you've had some hiccups on the first, it won't necessarily be forgivable, but you'd still be okay. Whereas the forgivable, most people plan to be there 10 years, something longer, because they really don't have the means to go and put a down payment on something else.
Right. So let's go over that. So I get the 3.5. Okay. And let's say 2 years into it, my income's gone up a little bit. And now I want to move to that house, right? And forget about the price of the house for the purpose of this, right? If I sell this house after 2 years, I got to pay back the 3.5, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that would apply to the 5% also?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there's a guideline that says you must own or occupy the property, and you cannot have any non-occupying co-borrower signees to guarantee the loan.
So if
mom and dad want to co-sign for you because you're not qualifying for the first mortgage, you can't get the down payment assistance in addition because mom and dad won't be living there.
Okay. But can you have mom and dad and an adult daughter? And the dad and the adult daughter are on the loan.
Yes, as long as they're all residing in the residence.
And so, yeah, okay. Yeah. So what if mom and dad are the borrowers and they have the adult daughter living in the home?
Yes, you can do that. Again, what they're going to look at is the total household income. Okay. So if adult daughter is out there slaying it in the world and she's saving up tons of money, her income's going to be looked at.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So that's important. That's an important distinction.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I'm giving you an actual scenario that I'm dealing with.
It.
So that's why I'm asking the questions. Okay, so if you got the forgivable, you got the pay it back in 10 years, right? At 2%, or 10-year term, 2% above the first.
Yes. So again, the first mortgage is your CalHFA FHA loan.
Right.
And say that's at 6% or 6.5%. The down payment assistance loan would be 2% above that. And so that 8.5% cumulative interest is applied to the down payment assistance loan.
Okay.
They can be expensive, but for some people, it's worth it because there's no other way to get it down together.
Right.
Yeah.
So the 5%.
The 5%, yes.
Is it the same? I mean, it's the same scenario as the 3.5. Why would I take 5? Why wouldn't I take 5? If you're going to give me 5 and is it forgivable? Oh, I have to make 10 years worth of payments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I don't want that.
At the higher interest rate.
Of course.
Right.
That's why they don't want you to take the 5.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't do it that way, but it is available if for some reason it was needed. Again, these loans are rather specialized and they have a really narrow little box that the people need to fit into to qualify because it is different considerations than traditional lending.
Okay. And so kind of like the dream, the dream for all, like, but there was a pool, there's supposed to be like $300 million in it, but the pool disappeared in the blink of an eye. Is there a pool number?
There's always a pool for each of these. And so the funds get replenished, if you will, at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay.
And then that money gets reserved.
Okay.
For borrowers.
Okay, so that's not a here. We got $300 million or whatever that number is, and once that's gone, that's gone. That's it.
For the year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And so I wanted to just say, of the $300 million, only $30 million of that was allocated for the California Dream for All.
Where'd the other $270 million go?
In Chenoa and in
so that's
my home CalHFA. Right? So you only have one bucket of money. How much you allot to each sub-bucket is...
So using the $300 million, you had the Chenoa Fund, you had the Dream for All, and now you got the CalHFA. So that all three of these tapped into that money.
Yes, and so I don't know what the total amount is that the Chenoa Fund versus the CalHFA have right now, but that they had to all share the money.
Is this like go to the store, buy a box of Cracker Jacks, and open it up and see which one you get?
Well, yes, and then you're going to be the unfortunate winner of the box with no prize in it.
I usually am. It's kind of like when I play the lottery.
Alan, you and your great luck.
It goes up and up and up, and I never get that number. Okay, so that covers the Chenoa Fund.
Yes.
All right, now go ahead.
So the California Dream for All was an experiment.
That's very polite.
Yeah, people are watching this. People are watching this. So here's what I'll say. The California Dream for All went like lickety-split, like somebody lit a fuse and it was gone.
Right.
So there was only $30 million in the fund. It is an experiment because there are new guidelines where CalHFA actually takes a percentage of the equity, future equity of the home. And that's unusual for a lender. So that's why I say it was an experiment. So just a few stats on it. $30 million, the fund was 100% reserved within 11 days. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody that reserved money actually closed a transaction. So once a certain amount of time goes by, whoever the fund manager is will go back and take a look and say, okay, of the $30 million that was reserved, within 90 days, we loaned out 20 of it. So there's $10 million left. So borrowers could potentially come back and be waiting for funds if they become available again this year. I don't know about next year.
Right.
Yeah.
But would that, I mean, just think about that, right? Let's say the $10 million comes back, right? And we don't know when, but it comes back. Would you dare, if you're a buyer, right, trust that program?
I think it would make you uncomfortable because you're hanging your hat on a potential, not necessarily an affirmative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost, okay, thank you for the experiment. I don't know that it got you what they are trying to get, right? But I know there are some buyers out there that are very unhappy, right? Because it went sideways on them like that.
Yeah.
You said 11 days, 100% reserved?
100% reserved in 11 days. That's pretty quick.
The ink hasn't even dried on the contract you wrote.
Right.
Right? And already your loan goes bye-bye.
Right.
Okay.
So the thing about this, let's talk about this because it is, there's two different area medians available for this program if it comes back again or if funds become available. If you're lower income, and we're going to go through area median incomes, but just consider that there's two thresholds for income. If you're at the lower end and you buy a property price that fits into the guidelines and you have the right number of residents in the household dependent upon that income, you either had, you paid 18% of the future income plus paying the loan back, or if you're in the higher median income, you pay 20% of the equity plus the loan back. So let's go through some math.
Okay.
Say that you get a down payment assistance loan of $100,000.
Okay.
Okay. And you also gain equity of another $60,000, we'll say. You're going to pay back 100% of the $100,000.
Right.
And you're going to pay back 18 or 20% of the $60,000.
So let's call it 20% so I can do the math on that. So that's $12,000.
Yep.
Okay.
So what the homeowner earned was $60,000 less $12,000 is what they get to walk
48,
with.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's an equity share program. It's brand new. I don't know how it's going to play out, but that is the intention of the program.
Okay. Just your gut feel on that particular loan, is it like the risk first reward, right? Well, the risk is I got to pay back this $112,000 under that scenario, right? But it got me in the house.
Right.
Okay. And maybe I'm not a, 5 to 7 year, maybe this house is really like, hey, I can stay here for years.
Right.
Okay. So on the short term, if you're a short term borrower, it's a bad deal.
Yes.
Okay. If you're a long term and can you give me some idea what you would feel was long term? Like anything, and I'm making it 10 years and more, right?
Yeah.
It's considered long term.
It is, actually.
Okay. So 10 years or more, this is actually not necessarily a bad thing.
Well,
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. You have to remember that the people that are going to qualify for this loan, they don't qualify to start earning any equity in properties because they don't have a down payment.
Right.
So if you look at it from that perspective, it is a service that the state of California is offering, and it does help lower income households afford to buy a home and earn some equity.
Okay.
Is it the best approach? Maybe not, but again, it was just an experiment. That's why there was just a small amount of money in it.
Okay.
For people to try and get.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the CalHFA, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go to the CalHFA.
Hey, but can I go back real quick to the Chenoa? You have it down here, income limit below 135% of the AMI. Can you just address that? Now, does that apply to this other loan over here? Now, forget about the dream home, because the dream home was like a dream. It didn't happen. Okay? We're going to go with the loan that actually happens.
It depends on the county, your income, and the number of people that live in the home and depend on that income.
Okay. So this is not really for the person for the people who are going to utilize these loans. Mm-hmm. This is probably a little more complicated than a podcast.
It definitely is, and so they should call.
Okay.
But just basically what that means in real language, 135% of the area median income. So let's just say, for instance, we're using Sonoma County. The area median income, say that fast 10 times, is $223,000.
Okay.
So you could do that plus
35%.
35%.
Okay.
That would be your maximum income to qualify for DPA. But when you combine that with the cost of houses here, it doesn't necessarily converge.
Right. Right.
These high-cost counties, it's tough to make these loans work.
Well, even Marin County, it's funny.
Oh, no.
Marin County, it says $300,000 is the AMI, right?
Mm-hmm. But then you go to try and buy something, and the minimum purchase price is $1,200,000. So it just
it doesn't work.
They don't converge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Converge, is that like a word you got from UCLA?
As a matter of fact, it is.
Don't
you wish you could use it?
I'm better off not.
Listen, the word of the day is actually ardently. So for the listeners out there, ardently is
a 3-syllable word, by the way.
It's the word of the day. Do you know what ardently means, Alan?
No, but I know you're going to tell me.
There will be a quiz at the end of the podcast. And for any of the listeners that call me and tell me what ardently means, I'm going to give you a little prize. $30 or less, but there will be a prize for the first borrower that calls me to tell me what the definition of ardently is. Okay.
Whoa. You're going to leave me hanging?
I am.
Okay.
Well, let me just say this. For the borrowers that want to fit into these programs, I will ardently work at making them fit.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
That didn't help at all. But
Boom, boom. Sure it did.
Okay, let's go.
Right.
CalHFA.
All right, CalHFA. My Home Offers Deferred Payment Program. Again, the programs are not that different, but what you'll find is there's a variation. Like this does not allow for 135% of the area median income for this program.
Okay.
Whereas the first one does, the Chenoa fund.
Okay.
So they will allow for potential income on guest houses, granny units, and in-law quarters. That would be the main difference. It's not an option here on the Chenoa fund.
Okay.
Okay. And the minimum credit score, I believe, is just a little bit higher than on Chenoa. I think it's 640, which is also what FHA is.
Okay.
So if there's conflicting guidelines, we're going to have to go with the more restrictive, which is always going to be the first lien guidelines, which would be FHA's guidelines.
Okay.
Okay. Why you would choose one or the other, as the consumer, you wouldn't. Your lender would read the guidelines, look at your individual case, and decide where you fit best, if you fit.
Okay. See, real quick, first-time home buyer, it sounds like a pretty simple, like, hey, you've never bought a home before, you're a first-time home buyer. But that's not really the definition, is it?
No, it really isn't. That's a great question. So a first-time home buyer does not own a piece of property, has not owned a piece of property for 36 months or longer.
So that's 3 years?
Yep, 3 years.
3 years.
So they can't have a rental property. So say they bought a place and they said, okay, I'm going to fly the coop and we're going to rent this and go on.
Okay.
That automatically disqualifies them from being eligible for these loans.
So you can't have owned property for at least 3 years?
Correct.
Okay. Great. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we want to cover? Do we want to talk about area median?
Area
median.
You got this home buyer education counseling. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Now, I haven't got into contract yet, but I've talked to you. You're my lender. Mm-hmm. You said that you're teeing me up with this loan, right? Mm-hmm. So I have to do this at some point.
Yeah,
right?
Do it
Can
first.
I do it before I write a contract?
Yeah, and you should.
Okay.
And by the way, as the lender, we're not allowed to tell you which service to use. We can give you a list of all the services, and you as the consumer have to choose one and apply, attend, and pay for it. I think it's $100.
Okay. So how long does that roughly take?
The
education piece.
I believe it's 3 hours. It might be 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like you got to be here for a week.
No.
Okay.
No, and you actually do it with a person on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
On the other end.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to cover that. Okay.
And then they get a certificate, which goes with the application, which gets submit to CalHFA's down payment assistance group.
So when you use let's say use the DPA right here, right? You got the Chenoa fund, and we're going to tie it to the CalHFA, right? Mm-hmm. Is there mortgage insurance?
Oh, yeah. So FHA, the first mortgage, CalHFA FHA is different than FHA.
Okay.
Okay?
What's the difference?
One is run by the CalHFA program because they're putting their second mortgages behind it, and the other is the Federal Housing Administration, and those are there's many lenders out there that lend on guidelines for FHA. But this in particular, these loans are CalHFA's funds for FHA.
Okay.
You're popular, dude. And for everyone just watching, Alan has the bat phone in the form of an Apple iWatch on his wrist, and it's buzzing.
Yeah, it's the IRS. You haven't done your taxes yet.
Oh, the henchmen are after you.
I know they are.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so let's take a scenario. Okay, I don't know that we should use hey, the purchase price is $600,000 or whatever. Okay, but this program works for this person. Okay.
Okay.
All right, and let's use the 3.5. Mm-hmm. Okay. What would be ideally? I mean, how would you match them up? And we'll go back to 5 to 7 year ownership or 10 plus. Mm-hmm. Okay. Instead of using these DPAs, if you could get an FHA loan using 3.5% down, right? Not assistance. Which one would it be better to do that scenario? You've somehow come up with a 3.5% down, right? You're gonna get the FHA, okay, for 5 to 7 years versus you're gonna use the 3.5% from the Chenoa fund, tie it to a CalHFA, and you're there 5 to 7 years.
Well, you also have the restriction of you're not moving out of this unless you sell.
With which one?
These programs.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're kind of.
That's it.
You're
staying.
pigeonholed. Yeah.
Unless you sell.
Okay.
Okay, and life happens. Milestones in life that determine the need to buy or sell property do happen. But in general, the intention here is to move people in and have them stay. Because it says you cannot have this convert to a non-owner occupied property.
Right.
Yeah. Where you could do that in theory, especially I have clients that have purchased 4-unit properties on FHA, traditional FHA, and over time they do move out and rent their unit. And so now they have 4 units generating cash flow for them. But that is not the intent for these programs.
All right. This is more like a single family residence. Condos allowed?
Condos are allowed.
Okay.
Single family residents are allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is really just trying to get somebody into a property.
Yep. We want you to live in a home.
Right. Instead of paying rent, here you go.
Yep.
Okay. What's your thought on? I mean, is there going to be from here? Mm-hmm. Is there going to be another program tied to this? Do you think there's going to be like that Dream for All that maybe they come back with something, they learn something, they may come back and make some changes? What's your thoughts on that, on the DPAs and like the Dream Loan?
Well, like I said, I think it's a small slice of humanity that actually fits in these. Mm-hmm. And if you do, I think it's a great service if you struggle to save money for a down.
Okay.
Okay. But for the general borrower, this isn't the way.
Okay.
So a regular borrower is either going to have some money saved, like 3.5% is not necessarily that onerous for a regular wage earner. Remember, there's wage restrictions to get these loans. So they're taking you to the top of your income limit and your monthly cash flow limit to get into these programs. It's a tiny sliver. Whereas on traditional lending, if you're a low loan to value and a low debt to income, you're golden as a borrower. You wouldn't fit in this because you've got too much excess income for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So you think these could be good programs, granted it's for the sliver, mm-hmm. right? But it's a good program for the people who really need this.
Yes.
This gets them into a house, gets them out of a rental. So this, if you have to stay in the house for 8 years, 10 years, at least you're getting equity.
That's right. And for the program 1 and 3, you're not sharing equity with CalHFA.
Right.
It's only the California Dream where you share equity. So it can work for the right borrowers. And, if you're out there in rental land and you're thinking, I can't afford to buy a home,
right.
think maybe that there are some programs available from the state that you should at least turn the stone over and see if you fit in it.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. They want to call who? Okay. Ardently. How do we get a hold of you?
415-509-7788.
Okay. No emails. They got to call you and talk to you.
They have to call me and tell me how ardently they are seeking down payment assistance.
But more importantly, ask them, what is the main ingredient in a fish taco?
Chicken.
Cilantro.
Cilantro? No way.
There you go. Blayney, thank you very much.
Alan.
We'll be back with another segment later on.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.